The art of storytelling is virtually lost to us and perhaps becoming lost on us. But I'm a firm believer in the power of words to help us understand images better. If a joyous scene goes undescribed, the world is poorer for it. July the 31st marked 2 years since the death of Chiyonofuji, the man who dominated sumo throughout the 1980s. I am sure that the day was marked by a ceremony attended by his close family and friends, the Sankaiki. Sankaiki actually means third anniversary in Japanese. Here, people not only celebrate the exact number of years since a loved one's death, but add 1 to this number to pray that the deceased may rest in peace for the coming year also. I hope this video helps keep Chiyonofuji in your minds for at least 1 more year too. Chiyonofuji was born Mitsugu Akimoto on June 1st, 1955, the son of a fisherman in the tiny Hokkaido town of Fukushima, population 11,000. After being scouted by the former Yokozuna Chiyonoyama, who promised he could continue his high school education in Tokyo just in case sumo didn't work out, he signed up with Kokonoe Stable and debuted in September 1970. A phrase Chiyonofuji often uttered was "kotsukotsu," slowly but surely, because that was the story of his sumo life. Naturally athletic, he soon mastered the basics and built up strength, but an inability to break through the 100-kilogram barrier proved a major handicap. When he was hit, he flew backwards uncontrollably, and when he threw, he dislocated things, both his shoulders to be exact. It took him 5 years to make the top division, and even then, he went straight back down. But 3 things were to dramatically change the course of his sumo life. The first was a revolutionary weight training program designed to toughen up and protect his shoulders. The second was a change in his fighting style, which saw risky throws replaced with forward drives from the front. The third was some heartfelt advice from his mentor, Takanohana Sr. Quit smoking. After years of meticulously conquering his inhibitions, by January 1981, Chiyonofuji was ready to leap towards greatness. And Japan was ready for him. Its Prince of Sumo, Takanohana Sr., had retired on day 6 of the tournament, not long after a defeat to Chiyonofuji. And it would take just 9 more days for Chiyonofuji to inherit his title. January 25th, 1981, and Chiyonofuji goes into the final day of the Hatsubasho with a perfect score. 1 win behind him is his final opponent, the greatest yokozuna of his generation, Man Mountain Kitanoumi. Only 2 years separate the 2 men, but in sumo terms they are poles apart. Kitanoumi has held the highest rank for 6.5 years, winning 20 titles in that time. Chiyonofuji's only title to date is a 3rd division honor from 1974. And the head-to-head reads 8-1 in Kitanomi's favor. But the crowd senses something special in the air. The economy is booming, the war is a distant memory to most, and unknown to some. And a nation can dare to dream that a hard-working, lightweight hero can resist the authority of the superpowers of the day. The clock strikes 5 and everything stops for sumo. Over 50% of the nation's TV audience trains its eyes on the Kuramae Kokugikan Dohyo as the handsomely chiseled Chiyonofuji takes to the stage. Kitanoumi is abominably strong, dominant to the extent he is resented by all but his staunchest supporters. This despot needs his authority checked, and he who grabs the gauntlet shall be celebrated as a national hero. The regulation match sees Kitanoumi expertly keep Chiyonofuji's deadly left hand away from the belt. His job is to become the barrier to others' success, and he is frighteningly good at it. Having secured a double-handed grip of his own, he simply lifts the lighter man over the rope and out. First blood to Kitanoumi. A playoff beckons. And now even more of Japan tunes in. The TV ratings have jumped to 65%, a record which will doubtless never be beaten. To put it into context, the Kisenosato Terunofuji epic in 2017 drew 21.6%. Whereas lesser men might have dwelled upon 14 days of wasted work, Chiyonofuji was coolly plotting his way to victory. As the two men had fallen a few minutes earlier, he had noticed his opponent's left knee suddenly give way. From that moment, his strategy for the playoff was confirmed. He would destabilize the fearsome Yokozuna from the left. A nation drew its breath again. Roars and shouts of unbridled joy erupted as Chiyonofuji swung his mighty foe to the clay, exactly as planned. A new champion had arrived. A new Ozeki had been born. And as his stablemaster, former Yokozuna and current NHK commentator Kitanofuji put it, "A small man knocking over a giant is sumo's greatest thrill. The delight we felt when our plucky little nation defeated Russia in the 1905 Russo-Japanese War. That's the feeling we get when the underdog wins. Chiyonofuji brought that thrill directly to the dohyo." That night, 30,000 people braved the cold to throng the tiny streets of his stable's neighborhood, desperate to welcome him and the trophy home. Throwing confetti from the third floor of the stable that day was the current Sumo Association chairman Hakkaku, then a mere 4th Division wrestler. The people had come in such waves that the title winner's car was not even able to get within 200 meters of the stable, he recalled. Chiyonofuji simply had to get out and walk the rest. His sandals turned from white to black, the crest on his howdy gown was ripped loose, and his sleeves were torn to shreds. He looked quite disheveled by the time he made it through the stable door. The title and Ozeki promotion catapulted Chiyonofuji to star status. 30 girls a day would crowd around the stable and shout for him to marry or date them, while another 20 fan letters would bear similar messages. He was also inundated with offers to star in commercials. Tetsutaro Nishiyama, who negotiated his contracts, recalls, 43 companies applied to have Chiyonofuji promote products from every region. I was forced to strictly select the products that would maintain or enhance a wrestler's image. The guy also needs to have enough time to train, so we set the limit at 5 companies, and each contract was for $150,000. But the new Prince of Sumo was not finished there. The ultimate prize, that of Yokozuna status, had still to be collected, and in July of that year, he would have his chance. July 21st, 1981, and there's a heavy sense of déjà vu about the occasion. Kitanoumi and Chiyonofuji are at it again, this time fighting it out for the Nagoya Basho title. Stung by defeat in January, Kitanoumi has bounced back by winning the next 2 tournaments, and has won 13 of his first 14 bouts in this one. Chiyonofuji, despite a shaky start to Ozeki life in March, fought his way to runner-up in May, and ties level with Kitanoumi for the lead this time. And television also grasps the magnitude of the occasion, not just for Chiyonofuji, but for itself as a dominant medium. The champion, the challenger, level pegging. The tension, the drama of the photo finish. It is for such moments that television was indeed created. And on this day it would break new ground as the producers rightly asked themselves, why confine the action merely to the arena alone? Why not link to Chiyonofuji's hometown of Fukushima? To Chiyonofuji's own house even, besieged by reporters desperate for a quote from his parents and sister, stoically focusing on the family TV screen and maintaining the Seiza kneeling position while cameras click and flash. And now we have the perfect finale. Chiyonofuji and Kitanoumi occupying separate corners of the same changing room, surrounded by attendants as they practice their basic movements, nervously glancing across the humid room while swigging from glass water bottles. Chiyonofuji slowly making his way to ringside and stiffly seating himself next to, of all people, his own stable master, who will be one of the judges for the bout. Conflict of interest? Perish the thought. Sumo is pure, the salt throws prove it, and judges are honest. And Kitanofuji's face is frozen with tension. In fact, his eyes are closed. He cannot bear to look as the man he has nurtured for the past 11 years bids to emulate him and attain the highest honor in Japanese sport. Chiyonofuji's sumo father and his real father looking on, thousands of miles apart, one in the modern big city, the other in the quietly declining countryside, both equally silent and both equally covered by the all-conquering television screen. Where are Kitanumi's family? Don't they come from the same prefecture as Chiyonofuji? Who cares? He may as well not even have one. He's the mere villain of this piece, the stone-cold wall between Japan and a fairy tale. And thus, the moment of collision arrives for the two men, both members of the same organization, which belongs to the same government as the TV organization covering sumo, and summer tour tickets needing to be sold. It is clear that everybody wants to see Chiyonofuji emerge victorious, but can the handsome prince oblige? He can. He's done it. Chiyonofuji is the 58th Yokozuna, and a nation is in raptures. A mother claps wildly, a father bows to the assembled journalists, and another father wipes away the tears at ringside. Phone calls must be made, gods and ancestors must be thanked, and glasses must be raised. Outside the house the ocean shines. Nagoya shines. Chiyonofuji shines. A bright new beginning for Japan's national sport in a new decade of unprecedented wealth and social change. There has never been a better time to be a sumo wrestler. Or a fan. And the media scrum is horrendous. Chiyonofuji's father, Matsuo Akimoto, recalls, "At its most extreme, we were getting 32 media outlets asking for interviews. I was talking to them from dawn to dusk, even foregoing meals to do so. I'm a fisherman. I'm used to going to bed at 7:30. But I even had them waking me up in the middle of the night. I'm from the countryside. I don't like all that attention. The national media make me very uneasy. And it got to the stage where I was putting up thick curtains and just pretending to be out." But even that was not enough to deter tourists from coming and proudly taking photos at the Akimoto front gate. And many of Chiyonofuji's Valentine's Day gifts also ended up on his parents' doorstep. Yes, the cult of Chiyonofuji was born, and giving rise to descriptions like the following, which appeared in the Nikkan Sports newspaper several years later. "With dazzling wolf-like eyes, he glared down his opponents. That's why they called him the Wolf. Those eyes alone were enough to crush many a foe. Those eyes alone were enough to capture the hearts of a nation. At the time of his maiden championship in January 1981, Handsome Chiyonofuji was the second lightest man in the top division. But what he lacked in size, he made up for in sheer toughness, bulging muscles, and an indomitable fighting spirit. Even a former chief Yobidashi added to the cult phenomenon, recalling that, "When I was calling the wrestlers to fight, I noticed that Chiyonofuji would always glare at me from ringside. It was the first time any wrestler had done that to me, so after a while, I started glaring back. But after he retired, he simply told me that having me glare at him psyched him up more, and that made me really happy. We could actually spur each other on with our glaring contests." The first piece of advice the new Yokozuna Chiyonofuji received from his stablemaster was sobering, to say the least. When you go, you make a clean break, and you never turn back. Chiyonofuji interpreted this as a stern reminder that a Yokozuna cannot be demoted, and that failure must entail retirement and the immediate loss of all that one has fought for. It was Kitanofuji's way of saying, keep your eye on the ball, train hard, no regrets. Chiyonofuji retired with 1,000 wins and 31 titles. But sadly, his stablemaster's words would ultimately apply to life itself. The Wolf performed his 60th birthday ring-entering ceremony in 2015, but died the following year. The speed at which the pancreatic cancer took someone so unbelievably strong was frightening. But Chiyonofuji was a product of his time and his unique form of employment. Smoke-filled parties, smoke-filled arenas, rampant drinking, overeating, overtraining, brutal training, success breeding excess. There is something in his story for all of us, I feel. And what he did on those 2 days in 1981 should never be overlooked. I was not alive to witness it directly, but tens of millions of Japanese people were. And he meant something to them.